Hey, beautiful souls and creative minds. Welcome to the Artist Stoop, the podcast where we turn the art world into your personal playground. I'm Jillian Zapata, your host, and I can't wait to dive into the art world with you. Each episode will be kicking it with an incredible artist, unraveling their stories and turning the spotlight on the magic that happens beyond the brush. Get ready to discover new perspectives, forge connections, and immerse yourself one captivating conversation at a time. So grab your favorite beverage, maybe a sketchbook, and let's jump into the kaleidoscope of creativity together. This is the Artist Stoop, where art isn't just a thing you see, it's an experience you feel. To another episode of the Artist Stoop. Today we have the pleasure of having Sara Bost Fisher, a mixed media artist, on a mission to infuse your world with color and joy. Sara enjoys painting on a variety of things, from canvases to grocery bags, walls to chocolates, and even wig stands. She fearlessly paints her way through a myriad of materials, bringing her unique vision to life in unexpected ways. Embracing the ever-changing nature of her craft, Sara finds beauty in the diversity of each day. So without further ado, let's dive into Sara's colorful world. Welcome to the podcast, Sara.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you on. Now, you are an artist that I don't actually know. I just met you right before we jumped on, and I discovered you on Instagram. I think there's a lot of artists who feel like they get, I don't know if it's an ad that pops up or something. I get a lot of these like, hey, visit this Instagram profile. And yours was one of those that popped up. And I just loved your abstract, your color palette. And I went, she's the person I want to talk to. She seems friendly. She seems nice. And I want to know more about her work because it's bright and colorful and it really, really caught my eye.
Thank you. That is good to hear. Instagram's throwing me out there.
It is. Instagram does that from time to time. And I do just want to point out, audience, excuse my rasped voice. I got a sore throat, getting sick or allergies or something. So excuse my voice today. But yeah, you're up in Oklahoma, right?
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
All right. So you are north of me. I have been to Tulsa. My mom actually grew up in Stillwell. Have you been to Stillwell?
Okay, I don't know Stillwell. I know Stillwater.
Not Stillwell.
I don't know
Stillwell. It's
okay.
North. I think it's north. It's in the far northeast corner, closer to Arkansas. It's like right outside Tulsa. I'm pretty sure.
So I need to go visit Stillwell.
No, you don't. Sorry if anybody from their family that is listening. Love you. No, it's a really, really small town, and like everyone goes to Tulsa, goes outside Tulsa to, go shopping and everything.
Yeah.
And that's where my mom's from. My grandfather was an Okie from Muskogee, and so Oklahoma is near and dear to my heart in a way.
Tulsa's nice. It's a nice place. And the arts community it's pretty fantastic.
And do you have a lot of galleries and like art events? Like tell us about it.
There are a handful of galleries, and then there is an arts district downtown, which is cool. And then there's something called First Friday, and different galleries and restaurants downtown and places like that. Like, you can display your art, and it's open extended hours, and there'll be events happening, and you can go down and be artistic. Check it all out.
I love that. Yeah, in my little small town of Sisters, Oregon, ours was Fourth Fridays. It was the fourth Fridays of every month.
Okay.
Did kind of the same thing, you had a little map, you went around, and
yes,
you had to get people out and about in town, and sounds very, very similar.
Yes.
Well, let's just dive in here. You say in your bio that you create art for every aspect of life. What does that mean? Tell me about that.
Well, I quickly noticed that not everybody can afford a large piece of art or has space for a large piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to figure out a way to get my art into people's lives um, in other ways. So I think the first thing I created from my art was wrapping paper. And
Oh.
so had a piece of my art printed onto wrapping paper. And then um, from there, somebody was like, oh, that'd make a cool wallpaper. And so then wrapping paper turned
Fun.
into wallpaper turned into fabric, and so it just kind of went from there. And I'm like, okay, if you don't have the space or the budget for a large painting, you might for like an acrylic tray or a
Mm-hmm.
Christmas ornament or something like that. And so that's what art for every aspect of life means is I tried to get ways for everybody to get to enjoy it.
So did you use like a company like Spoonflower or one of those that to print
Yeah,
your work, and
yeah,
did
I've
you figure out the
used
repeat of what that would did and all that for the design?
that is nowhere near my forte, so I have somebody help me with with that. Um, as you probably figured out from my emailing you before this, I am not tech savvy. I am not. That is not something. Um, that's not my strong suit. So I pass that off to my sweet helper assistant Emma, and she does all that for me.
That's very kind of her that you actually have, because
Very.
that's actually a very hard thing to do. Like I worked for someone who is a fabric designer, and her episode just aired, and figuring out pattern repeats for fabric and wallpaper is no
Yeah.
joke, because you have to line it up in a certain way and then make sure that where it's lined up you have to add things in the middle, and
Yeah.
just to make sure that it looks effortless with that repeat.
Yeah, and that's very, very difficult, and especially like if you're using an abstract painting and one area of the painting is, has a lot of activity in the top right part of the painting, and then okay, that looks weird when you're repeating it on a wallpaper or fabric that okay, there is that heavy spot that keeps showing
Yeah.
up in the same. So then we start flipping it and then trying to get
uh,
stuff to line up flipped. I mean, it's like
it's a whole thing.
it's a whole thing. And honestly, I haven't, gone super heavy down that pathway because it's it's genius. It's genius stuff.
You're sticking to canvases and all the other things.
Well,
So
not just canvas, but I
paper.
do still paper. I recently this was the most fun thing I've painted on recently. During the holidays, I created an advent calendar.
Oh,
And
fun.
so I went to a chocolatier here in Tulsa and was like, I have this idea. Are you interested? Do you want to make the chocolate for it? And he was all about it. And so then he got really excited and was like, do you want to, like, how involved do you want to be in this process? And I was like, well, I love chocolate. I want to be very involved. So I actually got to paint. So we created for the last day of the advent calendar. So we did 25 different chocolates. I came up with the flavor for the 25th day, and then I painted those chocolates, which that's a whole different ball game. Because you're painting inside a mold. So, I had this vision of what I was going to do, and then that went out the door because
Oh,
you're doing it's a concave.
yeah.
It's so
I've seen those chocolatier TV shows.
yes.
Like
Yes.
that's an art form in itself. But that's
Absolutely.
so
But
cool
that
that
was super
the
fun.
fact that you actually went to someone local and to connect like that in a different way that normally, an artist like a painter and a chocolatier like wouldn't normally come together. So that's
Yeah,
really, really cool. And how did you sell these did you make the wrappers for them or did they come? I'm sorry, I need to know more.
that's okay. So it was a box of chocolate, probably about 12 by 12, and
Mm-hmm.
then it had 25 different boxes, and my artwork, it was excerpts from different pieces created each window. And so you would open the window each day and there was a chocolate inside. And so then I did the 25th chocolate actually painted that.
That's so cool. That one's fun. Oh my, and did
It
you sell
was
those
fun.
on your website?
We sold them through the chocolatier, and we sold out. I mean, we could have done more, and we're going to do it again this season. Um, and that was
I
a
have to
learning
get a box.
process.
I'm telling you that
You
now.
do, you do. And
Yeah.
so yeah, we sold it through the chocolatier, and it was great. It was a lot of fun, and I'm always trying. I think maybe what's different with me than a lot of artists is I would say I'm equally an artist and an entrepreneur. So
Hmm.
I'm always trying to come up with ideas like to put my art on things or in things or collaborate with different people. Um, so it's not just painting on the canvas um, and I like people. So I want to go and hang out with the chocolatier and hang out with the people buying the chocolates, and um so that's been a really fun experience to kind of collaborate with different people and not just sit in my studio and paint.
Did paint. So another collaboration you do is with the Ruby Clay Company,
Yes.
right? So it's just like so chocolates and then also ceramics.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. Like cuz I think it's really important because I think a lot of artists have that entrepreneurial spirit, otherwise we
Hmm.
wouldn't be artists in the first place.
Right.
And so to see, to talk to you and see that you are taking every advantage that you have available to you and expand on it. I love that. So ceramics.
So Ruby Clay, they are a ceramic company in Tulsa, and they reached out to me and said, "Would you be interested in designing a dinnerware line?" And I was like, "Absolutely." And so again, kind of like with painting on the chocolates, I went in with an idea of what I was going to do, and that quickly went out the window. And um, it's again, you're on this different surface that you're not used to. And with my paintings, I do a lot of layering, and you can't do that on ceramic. And
Nope.
nope. So I created, there's um two different plates, there's two different bowls, a cup, and then we did a cheese tray. And so you can buy it as the set, or you can buy pieces individually. I actually had a friend tell me she wasn't going to do the whole set, so she bought the cup and she keeps her toothbrush in that. And so I was like, I love it. Whatever works.
So you can go on to their website and they manufacture them like individually, not in sets, I guess,
Correct. It's made to
is what I'm hearing.
order.
Okay.
So you can go on, and if you're like, I just want the cheese tray, cool. And I think it's like 10 days before they ship it to you. And
Oh,
or you
cool.
can buy the set. And that was a really fun experience as well, because I've been to like purple glaze and stuff like that with my kids, but I not
Hmm.
I've not been in this in depth into the ceramics world.
Yeah, like I used to, like while I was in college, I think I worked at a Color Me Mine, you know, after class or in between classes because it was right next to the college, and so it was a great way to
Nice.
me to get my creativity in and
Yeah.
paint on ceramics or I painted on a lot of the broken pieces that like
Okay.
so I had a lot of really random mugs that were all broken when I,
Yeah.
was when I was in college.
You mean
And
they
then I
just have
grew up
more
in my
character?
exactly, they were
Yeah.
flawed. They were
Yes.
unique and different.
Yes.
Yeah, and I come from like in my small town, there's a lot of ceramicists and I did ceramics in high school and it's ceramics is no joke. Like I was just talking to someone the other day and we were talking about throwing on the wheel and like it's hard. Like to
Yeah.
center it and then make sure that you get it big enough and then when you start pulling up and then to stay centered and it takes a lot of skill. So are they throwing on the wheel to pre-make these things or do you know the process?
They're pre-made and but that's interesting that you said it. I mean, it was a lot of back and forth because, I had an idea in my head of what I wanted it to look like. And then when you fire it, it can come out looking
Completely
completely
different.
different. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then, like I said, trying to figure out, uh, I can't use layering, which is what I do a lot on my paintings. And there were a lot of elements that I used in my artwork that I couldn't do on this. So it was kind of, um, it was a learning process for me too, but it was fun.
That's a lot of fun. So let's dive into those layers. So
Okay.
tell us about the where you get the color palettes and the inspiration for your paintings because you do have some abstracts and then some things are themed. Like where does all that come from for your work?
I would say all over, and I know that's a lame answer, but
It's
I
not
love
lame.
to I, I I love to travel, so I would definitely say traveling. Food. I'll be sitting at a coffee shop and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love the color of this coffee mug and take a picture and I'm like, I'm gonna use that in my next painting. And
Mhm.
um, I would say in general, I'm a pretty joyful person. So my colors are going to be pretty happy, happy, joy, joy. And, just playing around with different combinations and through my work, you will pretty much always see a pink. You will pretty much always see a turquoise. You will always see a purple. Um, you will see blues and greens. You will rarely see red. Um, I will say, I did put some beige right here in this painting, and that's
Mhm.
about the only time you're ever going to see beige. I forget what
I mean,
there's.
it helps balance it out. It
It
looks
does.
good.
There's some decorator, and she's like screaming from the rooftops. Beige is not a color, and I thought that was pretty funny. I think there's a
Beige is a
hashtag.
color.
There's a hashtag. Beige is not a color.
That's funny because I think blue is a neutral. I use blue as
Yeah,
neutral in my paintings.
yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
Beige
so
is
I
not.
would say I get color inspiration all over. I have two daughters. They're very opinionated. They chime in on things and color combos and so I would say all over. I know that's a pretty broad statement, but all
No,
over.
because you get color combinations from, all different aspects of life, like just being out and about, like whether it's a book cover or, a sign or, like you said, a coffee mug, like they color
Yeah,
inspiration is out there and you're just like, oh, I wouldn't have thought to put those together. Okay, let's do it.
absolutely. Or like flowers. Go. We have a
Mm,
botanic garden here. Go to the botanic garden and check out the combinations there. And so, really, I think if most people would stop and look around, um,
hmm
so
Yeah. Well, I did. There was a collection on your website that I absolutely have to know more about. I think you might like dessert just as much as I do, like a good
That's
cupcake, cake, piece of pie, cookies. I need to know about this collection that was inspired by dessert and what made you paint on Whole Foods bags, the grocery bags.
that was a really fun that was a really fun collection. There's an artist, Gary, I might botch his last name, Komarin, Komarin. You'll love it.
I'll have to look them up.
He paints these big pieces on, and um, he does cakes, but you'll just have to look it up. And then I went into the class with Donald Robertson. I don't know if you follow him on Instagram, but he is
Mm-mm.
all about like taking whatever you can find and making that work. And so I started messing around with the Whole Foods bags, and I really liked the texture. And
Yeah.
the paint, like if you didn't totally saturate the bag, you would get some of the bag coming through, which I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
And so
It's a
then I
good
think
canvas color.
yeah. So then I started, I don't know if I did a piece of pie or a piece of cake first, and then, I needed to research. So I'd go buy more pieces of cake to, photograph, study, and then I don't know how I got started. Well, then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do this whole thing, and it's gonna be cake and pie. And, you know, as I started researching other kinds of some pie, I was like, that flavor, that's not reading well for this project. Or like a cobbler, that like the blues and purples and pinks, that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the cakes, I got really into Milk Bar. Are you familiar with that bakery in New York? Get
Sounds
familiar.
familiar.
Okay,
I'm
get
writing it down.
familiar. They ship,
Milk
and
bar.
she's got a
Don't tell
cookbook. And
me.
anyways, she does this rainbow cake. I forget what she names it, but it's, lots of fun colored sprinkles, and then great sprinkles on top. And I'm like, that's fun. And so did a bunch of those. And um, then I'm like, okay, how do I display these in a way that looks somewhat presentable? And so I took him to the framer here that I had a really good relationship with. He has since retired, but he ended up mounting them and not putting glass on it so that you could see the texture, and
Mm-hmm.
then just kind of put it in a contemporary white float frame. And so
Cool.
I kind of just like, it was more impactful to have a large number of them. So I think I ended up doing like, let's see, I had a picture of this one. I think I ended up doing like 25. And
Yeah.
so you probably saw the picture of all 25 together. And
Yes.
what was cool is people ended up buying like four. They would get four and stack them and put them in their kitchen. Or yeah, I would say the
They
majority
did
of
like
them
a
sold
gallery
in,
wall types.
yeah, yeah. I would say the majority sold in groupings.
That's really cool. So I have to ask, really important question then.
Yeah.
What's your favorite kind of cake?
That might be too hard to answer.
Okay, top two or three.
Okay. Um, well, anything with buttercream, which I don't know if that says more about the cake or the icing, but I love just like a vanilla with with a good buttercream. I love a good chocolate cake. I don't discriminate. Pretty much anything. And I love pie. I like all desserts, really.
Bad habit. So my favorite, I'm a lemon cake with a lemon curd in it type of
Yes.
person. And I'm not
I'm
really much of a chocolate cake person, so please don't like I'm more of a tart, you know, lemon citrus fruity palette lover. But my husband, bless his little soul. So, I was pregnant and, my kid's 9 months old now. But I he got into this habit of going to the Tom Thumb near our house here. And there's a bakery called Rubicon Bakery, and you can find it at Sprouts, Tom Thumb, whatever. And they have this set of four lemon cupcakes with lemon curd in it. And every
ooh.
time that like I was it's like a lemon icing as well. Anyway, I crave them, and most like all throughout my pregnancy, I'm not sure how I didn't get the diabetes pregnancy aspect of it, whatever it's called. Um, he'd bring them home to me, and now they're not carrying it, and I'm like having a craving for it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and so every time that he goes out, he always looks for them, and if they have it, he'll buy them and bring them home. I was like, babe, we cannot have sweets anymore. He's like, but they had it.
I can appreciate a lemon cake.
I know, right?
And I'm gonna have to look that up and see. I might have to send you some.
Rubicon,
Okay, I will look
Rubicon,
at.
and they have a really good carrot cake, and it comes like
I
in the
will.
actual like mini carrot cake. I get that one at Sprouts.
I do
Those are my
travel
go-to.
for dessert. When Sprinkles opened in Dallas, a friend and I literally left Tulsa, and this is a 4-hour drive. Left
Yeah.
Tulsa, drove to Dallas. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you I bought 3 dozen cupcakes, probably had four. Then we were like, we should probably like eat a meal while we're here. I think we went and got something to eat and then drove home, and I felt so ill. Um, but
Dessert, you got to do what you got. Have you had crumble cookies yet?
yes,
Do you have
very
crumble
good.
cookie?
Very good.
That's also another one of those. My bless my husband, love him dearly. He stops
He
and brings me home a crumble cookie
if
from
he
time
is
to
bringing
time.
you dessert, he is a keeper.
I know,
Yeah,
right? Can't get rid
yeah.
of him because he does. Can't get rid of him. But I'm glad that I found someone who loves dessert just as much as I do.
Yes. I go in these weird tangents, and I haven't done, maybe after all this talk I'll do another dessert series because I haven't done one in a while. Um
Mm-hmm.
but it's funny actually, last week I was delivering a painting to a client, and she has a 3-year-old, and I did some G-clay prints of, it wasn't the series on the bags, but I rarely do desserts. And so there were some like prints of some past desserts, and the little 3-year-old had wanted one. And so she ended up doing, there were some donuts, I think an ice cream cone, and a bag of M&Ms. And I was like, okay, you're gonna drink, if you're gonna hang this on your wall in your bedroom, you're gonna dream about this, right? She assured me she would. So
I think
I'm
that's so
starting
cute.
to to influence 3-year-olds into dessert habits.
It needs at that age.
Yes.
Tell me, so tell me more about painting on other things, because it's not just like you did the I can't speak now. You did it on the Whole Foods bags,
Yeah.
and you painted on other things. So you've done murals, you've done
Done
busts. How did you
murals,
come
I've
painting
done
on the
busts. I
busts?
did. I ended up doing, I think I found like some, I don't even know like what Greek god it was, but I found a statue and was like, that would be really fun to like make it more funky. And so,
Mm-hmm.
um, kind of did my thing on them, and then ended up last year, the Tulsa Botanic Garden had asked if I would do some planters. And so I did. There were larger ones. They were probably like 14 inches high, and then you could plant something in it coming out. And then there were some smaller ones that were maybe like 4 or 5 inches. And so it's just a whole other thing. And so that's been fun. And then during the holidays, I do a series of nutcrackers, and that's a ton of fun. Someone had reached out to me and had a friend going through chemotherapy treatment, and they wanted to do something fun for her. And so I ended up doing a wig stand for her. And now I'm getting emails about that. Like, hey, I've got a friend going through this. Can you do that? And, so yeah, it's
Oh,
just kind of like all these different things, and the ceramic and, the chocolate. I enjoy having different things to do and not doing the same thing all the time.
yeah, it's important, I think, to, diversify what you paint on just so you don't get into like this rut of like rinse and repeat.
Yeah,
It's like you enjoy painting on canvas, as most artists do, especially when it's a bigger canvas, because, it all, at least for me, when I paint on a bigger canvas, it's almost like a reset. And then I can
yeah,
go and do like some other thing. And then I do that other thing. And then I do my reset, so that things keep being fresh.
yeah. And inevitably, when you're painting on a new surface you've never painted on before, there's going to be a problem. And
Oh, always.
so always troubleshooting that is kind of fun. Last year,
Hmm.
I did a collaboration with a florist in Tulsa, and I painted the vase, and then she did a floral arrangement, and that was for Mother's Day. And
Aw.
we were really having trouble getting everything to seal correctly. And and then for outdoor use, there's always new things
There's
you're
always
learning.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that keeps it exciting. I would not do
Hmm.
well going and sitting and painting in the same way every single day, or
Yeah,
churning out the same thing over and over and over and over.
exactly. No, that's why I'm like, which leads me to my next question is, do you paint in collections or do you do one-offs typically?
I typically do one-offs, and it's really interesting that you ask that, because it seems like, I don't know, and maybe you've noticed this. And maybe this is a product of COVID, but it seems like there's this whole new wave of artists, and they are like churning out like releases. And that seems to be like the new way of doing things. And I don't necessarily work that way. I think I don't have, I'm impatient. So like if I'm working on something, like I want to share it. And then when it's
Me
done,
too.
I'm like sitting on my hands, and I'm like, I want to
You're
put
like, I
it out
have to
there.
share it now. Yes,
Yeah,
no,
I
I'm the same.
don't,
Yeah.
I mean, paint's barely dry. And I'm like, um, so no, I don't typically do things in collections. I did a small um release of little Valentine's pieces, and that, sorry, I would say that was a little collection. And of course the dessert um a couple of
Yeah.
years ago. But in general, no.
You
And
paint for funds,
yeah.
whatever
And
you feel inspired to do.
yeah, I also don't think, like, if you lined up the last 6 paintings I've done, they're not exactly cohesive. Um, so I think that's interesting too. When people do a release, it's like, or a collection, it's, there's cohesion. And I don't know that I'm a cohesive person. I don't think I have a cohesive personality.
Well, like for me, my themes are cohesive, but my images look completely different,
Yeah.
like the one I'm obviously you can't see behind
Yeah.
me back there,
Nice.
but speaking of desserts, so I got inspired because I saw someone else, I saw a piece of cake And it
Yeah.
reminded me of like, who do I eat? Because all my stuff has a story, reference or something
Yeah.
connected to it. And so right now I'm actually working on 3 different collections right now, but just because I
Wow.
can't keep, because I keep jumping from one to one because I'm using different
Yeah.
mediums, so I have to wait for certain things to dry and inspiration to hit. And anyway,
Yeah.
so I saw the dessert and I was like, well, who have I eaten cake with? Well, what kind of cake was it? What was that memory? And so then it brought me out and I was like, well, you know, root beer floats. Root beer floats remind me of my grandfather, and he had a very particular way of making his root beer floats, like to the point where we had, I exaggerate, like an hour long, explanation on how to make the perfect root beer float. And if you knew my
Yeah.
grandfather, that hour is pretty accurate, kind
Yeah.
of. um, but it then reminded me of like, well, who else have I eaten desserts with? And I was like, no, I don't really want to do desserts. And so I started thinking more about my grandfather.
Uh-huh.
And I have, and something that we tend to do is go out to dinner and have drinks.
Yep.
And so I started thinking, well, throughout my life, what other beverages have I shared with him? So I'm doing a whole collection based off of
I
different
love
beverages
that.
throughout my lifetime, starting from when I was young till I have like root beer float, and then I have a chocolate malt. It's not a milkshake, it's a malt. That's very
There's a
distinct.
difference.
And then as I get older, the drinks start to mature. So like from a Shirley Temple to like then a margarita to a Bloody Mary to I'm then red wine and like then whiskey. So it's just like as I've aged, the maturity of the beverages have aged, as have the conversations, from when we go. So but each painting is going to look completely different. Like the root beer float
Yeah.
and the chocolate malt look way more childish and bright in colors than
Mm-hmm.
whiskey's going to look.
I
So it's just like,
love
even
that.
though that there's a theme, they
Yeah.
don't cohesively look together. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I love that idea. I have been, you basing that on a person and experience with that person.
Yeah.
My dad passed away a couple years ago, and ever since then, I've had this idea at some point I will do a collection based on memories of my dad. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
It takes
even
some
know
time.
like how do you get started on that? Like um
I do a lot of journaling, and I think
mhm.
for me, because I do have a storytelling background, I do have a creative writing background, um and so I like to tell stories from my paintings, like the themes. But for me, I've always known that I wanted to do a collection or a painting of my grandfather. I just didn't know what that was going to look like. And like I
Okay.
literally have written it down just because he's so important to me. And this literally came out of the blue. Like I was just sitting there, I saw the dessert, and then I painted. I think I posted on my Instagram, like you said, like I couldn't wait to get it out. Like I just had to post
Yeah.
it, and before I even knew what this collection was. And I put it out there, and then as I started to think about it, I was like, got it. I know
That's
what I'm gonna
awesome.
do. So, but yeah, no, it
Okay,
just,
so
a lot of journaling for me at
yeah.
least.
Okay, I'm going to start that, and then maybe since we are talking about it, I'm putting it out in the universe,
Okay.
then it's the ideas are going to come.
They will. They always
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
You just have to
Just
be
maybe
open to accepting them.
yes, have to be open to accepting them, and then you have to wait for the right time.
100%. And I think as artists, and it's funny, I don't know if you've ever read that book by Liz Gilbert, Big Magic.
Oh, yes. That is
Love that.
that's a thing. Yeah, that
It
is a
is a
thing.
thing. Like you have to be like, if that inspiration hits you, or that it's just like you have to jump on it then and get going, because then if you wait too long, that inspiration that's moved on to another person.
Yes. I started out like right now I'm in my studio in my house. It's tiny, but it was nice when my kids were younger because they could be napping. I could come get some work done. they could be asleep at night. I could come work, and I outgrew it, but I didn't get rid of this
Yeah.
because you don't know when that idea is going to hit. And I want to be able to run in here and get something down if it's 10 o'clock at night and something happens. So I
I was
definitely,
literally I totally understand that. So obviously across the hall is our bedroom and then my son's room
yeah.
is next to us. So my door to the studio is always open. And the other night the funniest thing happened. I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about painting a painting for another
Uh-huh.
collection and I started thinking about this layering and it's one that's getting a little bit sculptural and I
Uh-huh.
literally was closed my eyes and I'm trying to fall asleep and the next thing you know I went I got it and I was like cuz I was painting in my head. I was seeing the
Uh-huh.
lines. I was seeing things. I ran in. It must have been like 1 in the morning, and I just grabbed my sketchbook, and then like there's a colored pencil or those they're I guess it's like an oil pastel, but it's not. It's a crayon type thing.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah, yeah.
and I don't even know what color I used. I just grabbed whatever I could, and like when my sketchbook was open, and I scribbled something, and then I came in the next morning, and I was like, that's it, because I it was dark. I couldn't see. I was just scribbling in like the light of my phone.
I love
You
that.
need to have those moments where it's just like I need to get this idea out before it goes away,
Yeah.
before I forget it, before the rest of life consumes me. And now I have it, so when I get to working on that painting, I really know what I'm going to do.
Yes. That's better than like a pen and pencil or pen and calculator on your bedside table because I've done that too. It feels like I don't want to down them, scribble it down, and then I'm like arrowing like this is that color, this is this color, and it's better to actually.
My
I
favorite
like
is
I
when you're
like it.
out to dinner and you have a napkin and you're like looking for a pen or something and the waiter while you're like, "Can I have your pen? Give me your pen. Give me your
I
pen."
need it real quick.
Yep. I promise I'll give it back. Oh, I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that.
No, you're not the only one. And would you say um would you say you have a more structured personality, or are you more like I'm totally ADD, like all over the place? If um yeah,
Yeah, I'm structured, but I'm not. That's why I have
okay.
3 collections going. I
Yeah.
can't decide what I want to work on. Like, obviously today my mom has my kid and I had, she takes him at 9 and, you and I did jump on here till 12:30. I was so paralyzed. I didn't know what to do in that like little bit of time leading up that I was trying to
Yeah.
do everything and then I didn't get anything done and then I was disappointed that I didn't get it.
Hmm.
But I was so
Yeah.
overwhelmed with I was like, do I paint? Do I work on that? Do I do this? Do I this? And then it's just like paralysis.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a thing. And
It's
I have definitely gone in seasons of being stumped in my
Mhm.
in artwork, and I feel like back to the point of working on different surfaces, if I'm like feeling totally paralyzed, stumped, or whatever on a piece, to there are a couple things, and this has probably happened to me 4 or 5 times in my career. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm what you go through the whole.
You go through the whole list of I'm crap, I don't make good
Yes,
work, I'm a terrible
yes,
artist. It's a thing.
yes. It's a thing. I saw something online. It's like the stages of piece of a
Yes.
piece of art, and it was like, this is okay. This sucks. I hate it. I suck. Wait, this is pretty good. This is awesome. This is my best work yet. And it's just like the you
The
go through all of the
stages.
things. Yes, and that's the thing. But when I'm in one of those periods, I find that removing myself from the studio or the canvas or whatever and going to work on something else is very beneficial for me. And you know not that paint on chocolate is going to transfer like a great idea onto the canvas, but I feel like it's just you get out of your head.
Yeah. Well, it could. Yeah, I've already have an
It
idea for it.
could.
What if you start doing like something kind of sculptural where you said you were painting on this concave thing? What if you got like some type of thing that was concaved to paint on and attach it, and then it represents the chocolate?
There you go.
Giving
Maybe
you
that's going to
ideas.
be my new collection.
There you go. There you
And
go.
it was born today on the podcast.
That's what I'm here for. I did this also with my friend. I had an idea for her, and I was like, "What if, we do this?"
I'm all about what ifs, and I'm sure people around me think I'm like, who knows what people think? And frankly, I don't care.
Right.
But I am of the mindset, if you don't try, you don't know. So go for it. Do it. Try it.
That's what I always say.
So,
If you don't ask the question, the answer is always going to be no.
yeah, absolutely.
Right. And that's my old boss that I work with, the one I'm talking about, because she's a fabric designer, and we did visual merchandising for a shop with like home decor and then fabric yarn.
Fun.
Oh, so
Yeah.
many things. And every time I would come to her and go, "What if?" And she's like, "Oh no, what are you gonna make me do now?"
Oh boy.
She knew every time that I came to her going, "What if we?" Just like, what project are you getting us into?
But you know what? I guarantee about 95% of the time it was something awesome, and it turned out
Heck yeah, it was.
fantastically. Yeah. So
And we had to
go
modify a little
you.
bit as we went.
Yeah.
But
But
no,
the
I think it's
general idea.
important.
Yeah, you did it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Sarah, where can our wonderful guests listening to the podcast, watching the podcast, where can they find you and your work?
Well, I have a website. It is sarabostfisherart.com. My Instagram is Sara Bost Fisher Art. With the collaborations and stuff I do, there's usually links on the website, but the ceramic line is with Ruby Clay Co. It's in Tulsa, and then the advent calendar that will be available again this holiday season, that's through Cricket and Fig, and that's another Tulsa business. But yeah, my website usually has links to everything that I'm involved with, and then obviously on my Instagram, that's probably going to be the best way and the most up to date, probably.
Nice. Well, that's amazing. And do you have like do you show it all at any of the galleries in Tulsa or around, or have anything fun and exciting coming up?
I'm working on getting a show, trying to put a show together for October, but that's in the early planning. So I will definitely be posting about that or have it on my website as that comes to fruition. And trying to think what else. Yeah, I'd say most up-to-date info is probably on my Instagram.
Awesome. Well, that's awesome. And you guys, go look at her work. It'll bring you joy. It will bring a smile to your face. And if you're interested in her work, support her. All of her stuff that is available is on her website, and you can purchase directly on her website. So I will make sure to include all of her information in the show notes, so I'll make it easy for you to click and follow. So once again, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. And I really, really enjoyed this. And now I'm hungry, and I'm going to have my husband go out and find me dessert.
Thank you for having me. I loved it. Let's do it again soon. This was awesome.
Absolutely. Thanks. And that, my friends, wraps up another colorful episode of The Artist Stoop. A huge thank you to our incredible guests for sharing their art and stories. If you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on the next Stoop chat. And don't forget to spread the love. Share your favorite episodes with fellow art enthusiasts, and let's build this community together. Connect with us on social media at Jay Studio and Jillian Zepeda Art for behind-the-scene peeks, artist spotlights, and a sneak peek at my own art. Until next time, stay inspired, stay curious, and keep that creative fire burning. This is Jillian Zepeda signing off from the Artist Stoop. And remember, the world is your canvas, so paint it vividly.